Hello, welcome to ENG 220 Part 2, Week 3. Now, I was talking about the way in which talking about observation, the way in which we may take characters from life, somebody we know, incorporate them into our story and develop them as characters. Now, again, just as with ourselves, we may or may not be writing about the details of that person's life. This happens very often. It may be that we have an image of somebody. We know very little about them, but there is something about them that interests us, and we take such a person and add our own details, take details from here and there, maybe even take details from our own lives, take details from our imaginations, and build up a character. Now, it becomes clear from this that characters generally emerge from experience, but then our experience, our experience, something from memory, something we've seen, and so on, something we've read about. But then the story itself starts to, as we keep writing, as the process unfolds, the story itself starts to determine the direction that the character develops in. In fact, what we do often is take someone we already know and have observed and make a literary character out of them. Make being the operative word here. We take something, we take a story, we take a character, something that's real, but we make something else out of it. The thing is, if you're going to write many stories, you'll need many characters. So it will help you if you can cultivate several sources for your characters. Now, that's all I have to say about the creation of a character. I'd like you to read Linda Anderson. I think she has some very interesting things to say. Read Linda Anderson from page 70 at this stage until page 73. Okay. Next week we'll read what remains of the chapter. Next week we're going to read about the complexity of characters and how to write characters of complexity. Okay, now I'd like to talk about the activities, talk about the homework, talk about activity 5.2, but also about the writer's diary report or the writer's journal report that I asked you to do and which is due on November the 19th, if I'm not mistaken. Let's start with activity 5.2. Some have written to me asking for further explanation. They read the instructions in the textbook 5.2, that's page 73, but it wasn't clear to them. Now, the idea is that you do activity 5.1 first. Okay? There you must select a theme or an object and invent a character who might own one of these objects. For example, auburn hair dye. That is, if I'm not mistaken, auburn hair dye. So, now the thing is, you might ask yourself, is this a man or a woman? Is the person who's going to use it on their own hair, or are they going to use it for somebody else's hair? Why are they dyeing their hair? Okay. We know what colour it is, and we know that it's hair dye. So ask yourself some questions in a very simple way, very simple questions, very simple frame of reference. Now, from this comes the beginning of a character. A man stood on the corner with a bottle of auburn hair dye in his hand. In fact, he had been sent to get the auburn hair dye by his mother. And the reason that she wanted it was so that she could dye her hair. Okay, full stop. It's a very simple story. Now, you can make this more complex, okay? Now, how would you do that? Let's just look at a few things about hair dye. It's normal in many countries that women of a certain age dye their hair. Well, women, it's more normal for women to dye their hair, women of any age, than it is for men to dye their hair. But you need to make this story complex or somehow unusual. So why is the woman dyeing her hair? Perhaps she does not want to be recognized. Why does she not want to be recognized? And so on. Okay. Now, the Writer's Journal report. The thing is, I ask you to keep a journal. You're expected to keep a journal. This is part of the course. Okay, you must keep a journal. But at this stage, I don't want to see it because it's private, it's personal. But I do want to hear about it. I do want to read about it. So you will write a report on it. So you'll see in the course material that I put up on Moodle that I also I gave instructions for the report, but I also wrote up a kind of a sample report. You can use that as a model. Okay. So I want you to choose 3 aspects. That is 3 different kinds of entry. Maybe you have written some dreams there. Maybe you wrote about somebody you saw in the street. Maybe you wrote about a situation you encountered. Maybe you wrote about a scenario for a story that just came out of your head. Maybe you read a book. Maybe you saw a film. Maybe you saw a television program, something. Maybe you heard a news report and you wrote something about that. Okay? So you'll choose 3 different entries, and you'll see that in the instructions for the writing of the journal report that I've listed a number of categories. Yeah? You need somehow to adapt what you've written to those categories. If what you've written doesn't fit into any of those categories, good. Invent a new category for it. Okay? I look forward to reading your journal reports, and I look forward to reading your homework. Okay, activity 5.2. I think I'm going to get... thank you very much for all the work you've submitted to me so far. I'm going to get it back to you before Saturday. Okay? I'll send you the results and a report, comments that I've written. Thank you very much, and have a good day or evening, whichever one you're having. Bye-bye.